As we get closer and closer to the start of the 2024 season, I continue to get more concerned with the Missouri game.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, last night, ladies and gentlemen, we recorded our SEC preview with all of the Locked On hosts. It was a lot of fun. It was really fun to get all the hosts together. Our Locked On Texas host and Locked On Oklahoma host was there, which was exciting. It was fun to, hey, there's new members. This is a new show. We got new people. But it was a fun conversation. I was in the category with not the contenders, but the teams that were right behind you, could maybe shock people. I was in that category. And one of the teams that was in that category with me was Missouri. And hearing the panel's thoughts on Missouri got me a little bit more concerned for that game this year. So I want to break this down top to bottom. First of all, I think Missouri was deserving of being in that first ranking. I do. I think that you could have had Missouri in there with Ole Miss and Bama and Texas. I do. I'm a believer in Georgia. But, the other, Tennessee was in this panel with me, and so was LSU. And my quick thoughts, which that show, by the way, is going to drop, I believe the plan is Tuesday. It's going to go out on everyone's channel. I will update you all, but it's a ton of fun. It's going to be a good listen. So I'll let y'all know when that's dropping, and everyone can check that one out. But looking at this team, at this matchup with Missouri, it's in Kyle Field, and I should feel good about that. I should. But it's still a game that kind of gives me the creeps. It freaks me out. I do not love this matchup. So, when you're hosting a really good football team, and this is what I said on the show, and you have two options. You have a quarterback. You can have a quarterback in Nussmeier come to Kyle Field from LSU, or a quarterback in Brady Cook come to Kyle Field. One guy with a ton of experience. Just a ton of experience. And the one guy in Nussmeier who, hey, we saw him in a bowl game and he was great. But is that legit? Is he the dude? Was it one game? Was the adrenaline there? What is he going to be? And the kind of argument I want to have in this segment today, the argument I want to have is, I think for a while, I looked at of the and I continue to talk about those four challenging home games for the Aggies. And I used to rank them when it came to difficulty: Texas, Notre Dame, LSU, Missouri. I think that I'm flipping my thoughts there to to Texas, Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU. I feel better about the Aggies beating LSU at home than I do Missouri. Listen, LSU is a team that Texas A&M's had success against of late, and I just think I would rather a veteran quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback like Nussmeier walk in the Kyle Field than a guy like Cook. Do I think Cook is the best quarterback in college football, even a top 10 quarterback? No, I don't. Frankly, I don't think his upside is quite as good as Connor Wigman's, and I think that many can agree on that. But what I do see in a quarterback like Brady Cook is a guy who knows how to manage a football game. He does. He knows how to manage a football game. He knows how to win, and he knows how to win on the road. And Gordy, our Locked On SEC host, made a point, because I made the argument. One of Gordy's questions was to the panel was like, in this group, which it was Oklahoma, obviously me with Texas A&M, Missouri, Tennessee, and LSU. Those are the 5 teams in my section of the show. And Gordy said you have to pick one of these teams to overachieve and end up being, a playoff dark horse, or a team that can sneak, make the playoff. And everybody except for one person picked Missouri, and the other person actually picked Oklahoma, which I would have picked LSU if I hadn't picked. Actually, I'd have picked Tennessee if I hadn't picked Missouri, then probably LSU. But still, the point here is I think that people are buying into Missouri. And I made the argument. I said, I think there's 2 types of people right now when it comes to SEC football fans. There's the people that believe Missouri is a one-hit wonder, and there's the people that believe Missouri is a really, really good program that the coach Drink is building, and this is going to turn around. I am now in the camp, and if y'all remember correctly, about probably 4 or 5 months ago, when I was first breaking down the schedule and we were really starting to dive into it, I said, hey, I don't know if I believe what Missouri did last year, they're going to do it again. I believe they're a solid team, but are they going to do what they did last year again? I don't know. And I didn't believe it. Now, I am starting to believe that this program is here to stay a little bit. And that's why I'm a little bit more concerned about this football game at home for the Aggies now than I was, a couple weeks ago. I think that people are starting to believe, and I'll tell you, I think that Luther Burden, I don't care how good Texas A&M secondary ends up being this year. And as you all know, I believe the secondary is going to take a massive, massive leap. But here's the deal. Even if they do, I don't think anyone's covering Luther Burden. I think he's that good. I think he's that type of player that will be able to get open whenever he wants to get open. And if Cook can get him the football, you're in trouble. That's how good I think Luther Burden is. But the point of all this is to really say, I'm when it comes to concern for Texas A&M, I look at LSU and Missouri a lot. Frankly, I'm a little bit more concerned about the Missouri game than I am the LSU game. Matt Moscona, our new host over at Locked On LSU, broke down, hey, the offense last year was elite, and he believes that'll be the case again this year, despite losing a Heisman winner and a couple great receivers in Neighbors and Robinson. But when looking at this LSU team, that defense, we believe it'll be better. But my goodness, it was one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life. So, better could potentially, what does better end up meaning? How much better is better? And that's why if you want to look at these 2 games similarly, I'm fine with that. And I'm probably there too. If I'm leaning toward the edge when it comes to being more concerned about Missouri, it's not by a lot, probably 53% to 47%. It's not like I'm going, I'm 70% more concerned about that one. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It's close, but I think that at home, both of these games are winnable. But so I guess to once again sum this up, I flipped the games when it comes to how much I'm concerned about Texas A&M winning from LSU ahead of Missouri. Now Missouri's ahead of LSU, so both of those games are winnable. I wouldn't be shocked if Texas A&M did go 2-0 in those games. They're both at home. You're going to have a rowdy crowd getting loud. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But these are really good football teams with a lot of talent, and it's going to be tough to take these 2 teams down, even at home, even in front of your home crowd and in front of the 12 man. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm starting to buy in on Missouri. Let me know in the YouTube comments. Do y'all share that with me? Are y'all not as concerned about Missouri? Am I over worried about Missouri? Let me know y'all's thoughts on that in the YouTube comments. On Monday, we talked about the running back situation with Rueben Owens going down for the year and how important Le'Veon Moss becomes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the running back rotation. What players are we going to see take a lot of snaps? How much of this is going to be Le'Veon Moss? How much is it going to be Daniels and Smith? Let's break this all down. We'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at GameTime. There is absolutely no better place in the world to buy tickets than the GameTime app. I'm going to a concert next Friday with a couple buddies. Right? Where am I buying my tickets? GameTime. Would I ever consider buying them anywhere else? No, I would not. The only place anyone should ever purchase tickets to anything, concert, baseball game, football game, any sport, comedy, theater, whatever you need a ticket to, go get it on GameTime. It is the best place to go get tickets and the only place I will ever buy tickets for myself. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, this running back room becomes very, 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 very interesting once the Aggies lost Rueben Owens for the season. So, we need to break this down and look at this room and say to ourselves, okay, what is this going to look like now? And when I look at this Texas A&M running back room, I think the first key you need to look at is Coach Klein's offense last year at Kansas State. So you pull up Kansas State, you pull up stats. They had, I want to do the number on this. So you had 223, 124. 223 plus 124 is 347 carries there. How many games did they play? They played 13 with a bowl game? Yeah, we're going to play 13. So wait, let's go ahead and count it out. Let's just count it out. Well, we can't. Well, I want to let you go back. That's silly to me. Okay. So assume it's 13. So divide that by 13. That's about 26 carries per game between the starting running back and the backup running back there. So, if it's about 26, 27, somewhere, let's just say, around 30 carries just for the experiment. How many of those go to Le'Veon Moss? How many go to Amari Daniels? And how many go to EJ Smith? I would say pretty confidently. Now let's take this stat. Let's take that, and let's take the let's take how many their starting running back Giddens had. He had 223 carries. So they had 2.669. So we'll just round that up to 27 per game. Then he had, what did I say? 223. So he had about 17 carries per game. So that means that the RB1 last year for Kansas State had about 17 carries per game. The RB2 had about 9 to 10. If we look at those numbers when it comes to Texas A&M, how many of those carries are going to be to Le'Veon Moss? How many are going to be to Amari Daniels? And how many are going to be to EJ Smith? I think that you're going to see it be pretty similar. I would say if it's, I would say around this, about 17 a game go to Le'Veon Moss. I would say 6 to 8 go to Amari Daniels, and then 2 to 4 go to EJ Smith. And that's assuming EJ Smith is involved. It could flat out be 17 to Le'Veon Moss and the other 10 go to Amari Daniels. I'm a believer that E.J. Smith is a solid running back and that he can have a role for this team. I do believe that. And once again, and I've told the story on the show before, but every time I meet with our Locked On College Football host, Spencer McLaughlin, he always tells me how much upside he thinks EJ Smith has and how he thinks if Stanford had used him different, used him better, he'd have been been a lot better at Stanford. And he thinks he sees that upside in Smith at Texas A&M if they use him right. So, yeah, I think there's a world where EJ Smith is a guy, and is it going to be 10 touches a game? No, but is he a guy that could have an impact on this football team this season? Yeah, I believe that. Especially, you got to remember, I mean, you're one injury away at this point now from him becoming very, very important to this roster. So, I think Le'Veon Moss this is actually interesting. I mean, I think that Le'Veon Moss and Rueben Owens were going to be pretty close to splitting carries. But I do think that now, because of their injury to, I don't think Amari Daniels is going to take as many carries away from Le'Veon Moss as Le'Veon Moss and Rueben Owens would have split if Rueben Owens was still healthy. Like, let's say it would have been 15 and 15 or 16 and 13, you know what I mean? If the two were healthy. I think that it's going to be, Le'Veon Moss is going to really get a bulk of the carries, and Amari Daniels is still going to take some, but he's not going to take as many as if it was two-headed monster made up of Le'Veon Moss and Rueben Owens. So, I think Le'Veon Moss's role got a lot bigger when Rueben Owens went down, and obviously I don't think that's a rocket science take there. But what I'm getting at here is, like, it's not like they're going to be like, all right, Amari Daniels, you're up. We're going to split you off 50-50. I think that it went from what would have been a 50-50 workload to what is probably now a 70-30 workload. So this definitely got Le'Veon Moss some more work. But once again, one thing that I've talked about, don't think for half a second that Le'Veon Moss is not. I mean, Le'Veon Moss, I think, is a really, really good running back. I think he's going to have a great season. I'm really not. Losing Rueben Owens is killer. We're not going to sit here and act like, oh, well, whatever. Who cares? Not a big deal. We'll be fine. You can't do that. You can't act like this isn't a huge, huge loss for this football team, because it is a huge loss for this football team. And it's really unfortunate that you have to lose such a talented player, a guy who we really expected to break out this season. So I think that while that's a terrible loss, you're fortunate in Texas A&M situation to still have a really, really good stable of running backs behind him, to where, yes, I wish Rueben Owens was out there, but you're still going to be okay. Now, when 4 goes to 3, you go from deep to not deep very quickly, especially knowing Rueben Owens' injury isn't like a 2-weeker. It's he could be out for a long, he's out for the year. If it was like a 2-weeker, whatever, he's out for the year, which means this is what you're rolling with. These are the guys you're going into battle with: Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, EJ Smith. I think it's a good group to go to battle with, but once again, to reiterate this point home one more time, you really wish you could have Rueben Owens there. But yeah, I think they're going to split up these carries in a really interesting way. I'm excited to see how this works itself out. But I am not concerned about the running back room. I think that it's a tough loss, but I also think that Le'Veon Moss is a really, really good player. And in all honesty, I think there was a chance he would have won. He would have won this job. Obviously, I told y'all on the show that I leaned Rueben Owens winning the job, but I told you it wasn't by a wide margin. So, Le'Veon Moss could even have been the starter anyway. So, yes, we're not going to pretend this isn't a horrible, horrible loss for the Aggies, because it is a horrible, horrible loss. But the world is going to keep going around, and this running back room is going to be just fine. There's been some rumors floating around. Could Texas A&M be getting a little bit of help in the running back room from a player maybe we weren't expecting? We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Is anybody buying into the Terry Bussey at running back hype? I don't know if I am, but it's a fun little 4-minute conversation to have here before we call it a day. I just don't see that being a way that you're going to use Terry Bussey. I mean, I have talked about that. I see a world where they get him involved in the offense. Now, I thought that was going to be with some bubble screens, some some end around, some stuff like that, with him kind of playing receiver, not really running back. But I saw the things floating around. Now I'm starting to see articles about it. When I start to see articles about it is when I go, okay, maybe we should actually have a small conversation about this, because like I said, for a while it was, oh yeah, ha ha, maybe Terry Bussey, for these last couple of days, maybe Terry Bussey can play running back. And then people are starting to write articles about it. So I wanted to share my thoughts on that, because I know I've seen people on Twitter talking about this as well. I don't know if I'm a believer in that. I don't. Here's the deal. What I am a believer in is that you could put Terry Bussey on the football field to do literally anything, and he will do it at a high level. Do I believe he can play running back and be elite? I do, because once again, he's got the quick feet, he's got the athleticism, he's got the shiftiness. I mean, when you put the football in his hands, it's hard to bring him down. Because he's so shifty, he's so fast. But do I think they use him at running back this year, even with Rueben Owens going down with the injury? I just don't see that happening. So if you all are more optimistic in the chances of that happening, let me know in the YouTube comments. Now, do I think there's a world where they use him in some packages on offense? Maybe in a random role where he comes. And I know I always get griped at for saying this. But I'll give you two examples. In a Curtis Samuel or how about this, Anais Smith or Deebo Samuel type role. There you go. If I would have just said Deebo Samuel, people would have yelled at me. But the reason I bring that up, all those different options, is because could you use him as a player that you throw it to him some, you hand it off to him some, you just use him as a flat out offensive gadget, as a Swiss Army knife, as a weapon. He just does a lot of different things. I could see that. But do I see him just being a full-on running back? I don't know. Do I see him being a guy that maybe gets 3 plays every game on offense, and one's a jet sweep, one's maybe like an outside pitch at running back, and then one's like a screen over a receiver? I could see something like that happening. But I don't know if I believe that you're going to see Terry Bussey line up and just flat out get 6 carries out of the backfield as a true freshman. I don't know if I see that happening this season. But once again, if y'all really believe that could happen, if y'all have seen these rumors like I have, and maybe you're a little bit more buying into the hype of this than I am, let me know that in the YouTube comments. I'm really curious to hear everybody's thoughts on that conversation. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Once again, like I said, that show with all the SEC hosts should be coming out on Tuesday. It's going to be a fun one. Y'all are going to enjoy it. I'm excited for y'all to get to watch it. But I'm looking forward to that heading your all's way. But like I said, that's going to do it for today's episode. Hope everyone has an outstanding rest of their day today. And we'll see y'all tomorrow right here at Locked On Aggies.